Okay, so get ready because today we are diving into a world, and let me tell you, this world is just bursting with raw emotion, simmering tension, and the characters. Oh my goodness, you guys, these characters.
I'm hooked already. Tell me more.
We're about to unpack excerpts from White Tiger and Black Horse. And let me tell you, this story, well, it's anything but, a walk in the park.
Hmm.
The story takes place in a village called Metadom.
Metadom.
Yeah, Metadom. And it's nestled between, get this, Red Phoenix Bay and Green Dragon Mountain. I mean, talk about a recipe for intrigue, right?
Even the name Metadom, it just feels significant, doesn't it? Like, it's almost as if the author's giving us a little hint right off the bat. Like, this village, it's more than just a place, you know? It's like a microcosm of all these universal human dramas and experiences.
Right. The setting itself is a character.
Yeah.
And speaking of characters, we've got 5 main players in this story. And let me tell you, each one, well, they bring their own unique flavor to the mix. First up, we've got Alex. And this guy, he is like a vibrant soul. Always got his mind racing towards new horizons. In fact, the book even describes his thinking as like a galloping horse.
Interesting.
Makes you wonder if he's ever going to be tamed or if he'll always kind of crave that unbridled freedom.
You know, that makes me think about the title White Tiger and Black Horse. It's like Alex, with all his energy and optimism, he could be that white horse, representing, I don't know, maybe unbridled potential, and maybe even a touch of naivete.
Oh, I like where you're going with this.
Yeah.
Then we have Daniel. And Daniel, oh man, Daniel's like this fascinating contradiction. He's got this incredibly warm heart, but he's constantly wrestling with this like persistent pessimism. Like he can see the good, but he struggles to embrace it fully.
He almost sounds like a perfect foil to Alex, wouldn't you say? It's like the author deliberately put these two characters side by side to highlight the contrast, you know, the eternal dance between optimism and doubt.
Absolutely. And well, where there's light, often there's shadow. And that's where Mark comes in. He's like our resident brooding soul, carries this aura of simmering anger like a volcano on the verge of eruption. You can just tell there are stories like etched beneath that guarded exterior.
Okay, so if Alex is our white horse, then Mark, well, he might just be our black tiger, right? Powerful, unpredictable, and just maybe a little bit dangerous. It really makes you wonder, though, what kind of events in his past forged this intensity in him?
Right. Okay, but don't worry because Metadom also has this like calming presence amidst, all this potential chaos. And that is Elena. She embodies balance, moderation. She's the voice of reason, that steady hand on the rudder in this sea of swirling emotions.
It's true. Every story needs that grounding force, someone who can, I don't know, offer a little bit of perspective, maybe even guide the other characters towards it. I'm really curious to see how she handles all the inevitable storms, that are bound to pop up.
Me too. And hold on to your hats.
Yeah.
Because the final member of our quintet is about to shake things up a bit. Isabella bursts onto the scene, and she's got this wild spirit, a fiery temperament, and the books even hint that her arrival disrupts the village's equilibrium. It's like, I don't know, like dropping a bright, vibrant dye into this perfectly still pool of water.
I see it as more than disruption, though. It's like she's a catalyst for change.
I like that.
Because with her untamed spirit, she might just force the other characters and maybe even the village itself to confront some of those aspects of themselves they've been keeping hidden.
I love that. A challenge to the status quo. Okay, so we've got our players, right? Let's see how their stories begin to intertwine, especially in these first chapters. Chapter 1. It's like stepping onto the stage right as the curtain rises. You get this sense of Metadom's beauty, you meet her characters, and then you feel this, I don't know, these first rumblings of drama that are about to come.
Yeah, that initial setup, it's crucial, right? Because it's where we, as readers, we start to form our own impressions of these individuals, their motivations, and maybe even get a sense of the potential clashes that might come from all these differing viewpoints.
Exactly. And one recurring theme that the author highlights is this idea of balance. Alex's galloping mind, right, versus the need for grounded practicality. Daniel's warmth battling that persistent pessimism. Even Mark's simmering anger, it's like juxtaposed against this backdrop of the village's outward prosperity. It's like there's this constant push and pull back and forth between these opposing forces.
It's like the duality of human nature, wouldn't you say? It's like we all have these opposing forces within us, these contradictions, and it's these contradictions that make us who we are. And it seems like White Tiger and Black Horse really wants to dive into that duality, not just within the characters themselves, but also in their relationships with each other, even in the very fabric of Metadom itself.
Totally. So how about we, we dig a little deeper into these opening chapters,
Yeah.
what really stuck out to you as particularly significant?
I kept coming back to that word balance. It's almost as if the setting itself, nestled between these really contrasting landscapes, kind of embodies that theme.
Hmm.
And we see that theme echoed in the characters, right?
Right.
In their own internal struggles. But then there's also this underlying tension, this feeling that this balance, it's precarious, almost like I don't know, like a house of cards just waiting for a gust of wind to come knock it over.
And that is where we start to see the real intrigue unfold. Because in Chapter 4, that gust of wind, well, it arrives in the form of Mark's barely contained anger. It vibrates off the page. What do you make of that? Is it just like his personal history, or do you think there's something more there?
It's like a crack, isn't it, in this idyllic facade of Metadom. It's like
Yeah.
the stark reminder that even in a place that seems harmonious and balanced, there are always these, undercurrents of unrest.
It's like looking at the surface of a lake.
Mm.
It's like it might look all calm and peaceful, but underneath, who knows what kind of currents are swirling around down there.
Right. Just waiting for the right moment to break through that surface.
Exactly. And it's interesting how the other characters react to this crack in Mark's composure. You know what I mean? It's like they're being forced to confront their own vulnerabilities, their own defenses, the things they keep hidden.
Yeah, it's true. You start to see how everyone's kind of like their emotions are rubbing off on each other.
Yeah.
Like they're all connected in this invisible web.
Totally. And it's almost as if Mark's anger is contagious, because in Chapter 5, oh boy, things really start to escalate.
Yeah, the tension's definitely building.
Even Elena, who's usually, the peacemaker, she's a little off kilter.
I think that's so true to life, though, isn't it? Like sometimes when you're around someone who's really feeling a certain way, it's like their energy, it kind of seeps into you whether you want it to or not.
100%. And just when you think things couldn't possibly get any more, well, intense, Isabella arrives.
Talk about a game changer, right?
Chapter 6. Chapter 6, you guys, it's like a bolt of lightning straight to the heart of Metadom.
Boom. There it is.
Right. So the author was like, okay, we've explored all this like simmering tension beneath the surface, but now I'm bringing in the big guns, the element that's going to turn everything upside down.
Exactly. And the way as Isabel is described with her wild spirit and her fiery temperament, it's not just about disrupting the peace, is it? It's like she's this whole new element.
It's catalyst.
Yeah.
She's shaking things up, challenging the rules, the expectations, everything.
I love that. Okay, so speaking of shaking things up, Chapter 7, oh my goodness. Chapter 7 throws us right into the middle of a classic love triangle.
Had to happen eventually.
I know, right? So Isabella, she becomes this magnetic force, drawing both Alex and Daniel into her orbit.
Of course she does.
We know these two men are practically opposites.
Night and day.
One driven by boundless optimism, always chasing after the next big thing. And then there's Daniel, more cautious, a little more grounded.
It's like she's this mirror reflecting their own internal struggles back at them.
Oh, that's good.
Alex, he's always been drawn to what shines brightest. So of course he sees in Isabella a kindred spirit, a fellow adventurer, someone who's not afraid to break the mold.
Right. But then there's Daniel, who's he's still grappling with his own shadows and insecurities.
Always.
And he's drawn to Isabella's fire, her energy. But he's also, he's a little bit wary, because he knows how much it hurts to get burned.
It's like she embodies both of their deepest desires and their greatest fears all rolled into one.
Exactly.
That's
And the way she navigates this whole love triangle situation, it's interesting. It's not manipulative or calculated at all. If anything, it feels, I don't know, genuine. Like
Yeah.
she's figuring things out as she goes along, just like they are.
It's refreshing, right?
It is. It makes her a much more complex and compelling character. She's not just there to shake things up. She's on her own journey of self-discovery.
I love that. It makes me think about those times in life when you meet someone who just challenges your assumptions, turns your world upside down.
Oh, yeah. Those can be some of the most, I don't know, unsettling, but also exhilarating experiences, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like you're forced to confront these parts of yourself that you might not even have known were there.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what Isabella's arrival does for Metadom. She's a catalyst for self-discovery, not just for the other characters, but for us as readers, too.
Totally. Okay, so with all of this emotional intensity swirling around, Chapter 8 takes a little bit of an inward turn.
Things quiet down a little bit. We get a glimpse into those quiet, introspective moments. that happen when everyone else is asleep.
Right. It's like those moments allow for a different kind of honesty, you know? Like when it's dark and quiet, you can finally let your guard down a little.
Absolutely. And I was so struck by that scene with Mark, the one where he's like standing outside under the night sky.
Oh, yes. He seems so different in that scene.
Right. It's like for the first time, he's not carrying all that anger and tension around with him. It makes you wonder what's going on in his head.
Right. Maybe there's a part of him that really does want that same balance and harmony that Elena embodies, but something's holding him back.
It's like he's caught between the white tiger and the black horse, you know? Like he can't decide which one he is.
That's such a good point. And then Chapter 9 happens, and in a surprising turn of events, it seems like Metadom has actually achieves a state of harmony. Everyone's communicating. They seem to understand each other better. There's a sense of peace that wasn't there before.
But the question is it real or is it just like a temporary truce?
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing. Because, I mean, even though everything seems calm on the surface, that title for Chapter 10,
Oof, yeah.
Tempestuous Revelations.
It does not bode well.
I know. It's like that feeling you get when, a storm's coming and everybody gets really still and quiet.
Like the calm before the storm.
Exactly. So as we're, on the edge of our seats waiting to see what's going to happen next, I'm curious, is there a particular character you find yourself rooting for?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think they all have their moments,
For sure.
But if I had to choose, I think I'd have to go with Daniel. Yeah, I connect with his struggle, Trying to stay hopeful, trying to see the good in the world, but also, not being afraid to acknowledge the darkness when it's there.
He's definitely the most relatable character, I think. Yeah, it's like they're so real, like we see ourselves in them in all their messy glory.
Absolutely, and I think that's what makes White Tiger and Black Horse so compelling. It's not afraid to show us the full spectrum of human experience, even the parts that are, well, a little bit messy.
And let's not forget, we're left hanging, right? With that cliffhanger.
Oh, tell me about it.
Isabel is at this crossroads trying to figure out who she is, what she wants.
It's a classic dilemma, isn't it? Trying to balance your own needs with the expectations of, well, everyone else.
Exactly. And then there's Alex and Daniel, each of them trying to navigate their feelings for her while also, chasing after their own dreams.
Right, because life doesn't just stop because you've got a love triangle going on.
Exactly. And speaking of complications, we can't forget about Mark.
Oh, Mark, he's a whole other layer of intrigue, isn't he?
Right. All that simmering intensity, the way he seems to, hold himself apart from everyone else, it makes you wonder what's going to happen when all of that, I don't know, when it finally boils over.
Well, and that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Will he erupt in a way that just shatters everything, Or could he maybe, I don't know, find a different way to channel all of that intensity, something a little more constructive?
That's the big question, right. And I think that's what makes this story so hard to put down. You need to know what happens next.
Exactly. And the author has done such an incredible job, weaving together these characters, these themes, these symbols. It's like you're caught in this web of suspense and you can't look away.
It's so true. So as we count down the days until we can finally get our hands on Chapter 10 and those tempestuous revelations, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from these first 9 chapters? What's the thing that's really sticking with you?
For me, it's the idea that true harmony, real connection, it doesn't come from pretending that our differences don't exist, or from trying to erase the struggles, the messy parts of ourselves.
It's about embracing it all.
Yes, exactly. It's about acknowledging the complexities both within ourselves and in others. It's about learning how to navigate those choppy waters with, with a little bit of grace, with a little bit of understanding.
I love that. It's like the difference between, I don't know, a perfectly still pond and a rushing river.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
The pond, it might look peaceful at first glance.
I'm right.
But underneath, it's often, stagnant. But the river with all of its twists and turns and unexpected currents, it represents something much more dynamic.
It's alive.
It is. It's alive. It's this constant state of change and flow and adaptation. And maybe that's what Metadom is really all about. Maybe it's about embracing those contradictions, the ebb and flow, the light and shadow, the white tiger and the black horse that we all carry within us.
Beautifully said. I couldn't agree more.
Well, on that note, dear listeners, we encourage you to dive into the world of White Tiger and Black Horse yourselves.
See what you discover.
Find out which character's journey speaks to you, what resonates with your own experiences.
Happy reading, everyone.
Until next time,
Yeah.
Deep Divers.